Hi everyone, I'm Jamie and welcome to my garden. Today I'm going to show you how I made this modern raised herb planter from old pallets on Jamie Makes It. To start off with, I separated the pallet lats into piles according to thickness. These lats were all 9cm wide and with thicknesses of 20mm and 30mm. Once I finished separating my stock, I set my miter saw to its 45° setting and cut that angle to one end. I then measured 400mm from the long end of the miter and made a mark. I lined up the mark I made with a saw blade and clamped down my stock block and cut all four sides for the bottom tier. I repeated this process for the other three tiers. I gave all the pieces a quick sanding with 80 grit to remove all the wispy edges. I'm not sure how I'm going to reinforce these miters, whether I want to use dowels or screws. Now they're both the similar sort of length, I think about 32mm. So I've gone out and bought this set from Screwfix, and in it is a couple of plug cutters. So if I go down the screw route, I've never used one of these. I could cover the screw heads with some plugs, or whether to just use dowels. I'm really undecided, so I think I'm going to try both, see which is best. I've never built one of these before, so it's all an experiment. Next, I marked out where I wanted the fixings to go. I made measurement marks at 30 and 60mm on each side of the tier. I also brad nailed each side to temporarily secure it, making sure that the nails wouldn't interfere with where I wanted to put my other fixings. For the dowel holes, I used a 5mm drill bit to make pilot holes to accommodate a 6mm dowel. I glued the dowel into place by putting a bit of glue into the hole as well as on the dowel and then tapping that into place with my wooden mallet. For the screws, I replaced the drill bit supplied in the countersink pack as it was slightly too big with a 3mm drill bit, as these screws are just over 3mm and 3mm is the thinnest drill bit I own. This allows the threads to do all the work. I inserted the screws and then added wood glue into the hole for the plug. I didn't add wood glue to the plug directly as I thought it would be overkill here. I then trimmed off the protruding dowels with my pull saw and sanded flush using my sander. So after using both dowels and plugs, I think I'm going to go plugs because they are cut from the same wood and they blend in a lot more than what the dowels do. Paw Patrol plaster for the win. Hi hi. I've also just noticed that I've made an error. This side I didn't offset these holes so they won't interfere with these screws or dowels here. So what I'm going to have to do is just drop them down about 10mm so they're raised up from this brad nail here but below this screw, and I'm going to have to do that on every other side as well. But never mind, it's a learning curve, isn't it? As long as we learn, that's all that matters. Try not to make the same mistake twice, he says, every time. After deciding I wanted to proceed with screws and plugs, I drilled the rest of the pilot holes in the remaining tiers and countersinking the holes to accommodate the screw heads and plugs. Oh, you beauty. I'm impressed with that. They're alright then, aren't they? I then repeated the process of adding screws, gluing and flushing up the plugs until each tier sides were built. Next, I moved on to cutting the lats for each tier at the miter saw and ripped the ones down which were too wide using the table saw. I attached these in place with 50mm brad nails, as I've had these nails for a couple of years now, and on this project seemed the best to make a dent in my supply. The planter will be placed on the floor and stacked on top of each other so they won't be supporting a lot of weight, so the nails should be fine just here. I then changed my table saw fence to 70mm to cut the supports and trim the length down at the miter saw. These were then glued and nailed into place, and I sanded each tier with 100 grit using my random orbit sander. Now this is why you don't have a tool wall behind a miter saw. Can you see all that? I think I need a miter saw hood. Well, I'm currently waiting on a delivery from Amazon for some wood filler to cover up the nail holes and some spray varnish to finish it with. I suppose I best tidy up really, because it's a bit of a mess. To say I've got two shop vacs. I mean, one's like linked up to the table saw. Right there. And then I've got that shop vac. That's really good, is that, by the way? I do like that. Although I have to keep emptying the filters because I'm too cheap to buy any more. To keep the project moving, I decided to line the planter with plastic, and in this case a thick shopping bag. This was cut and stapled in place. I used a scrap piece of wood, pressed against the base of each tier and drilled 9mm holes to allow for drainage. Just as I finished this, my Amazon delivery arrived. I filled all the nail holes with filler and sanded back to 100 grit. Off camera, I also added 4 strips of wood under the bottom tier, lifting it off the ground slightly and out of the drainage water. I secured this with glue and brad nails. I brushed off the dust left over from sanding and then I could get on to finishing. I wasn't a fan of the natural look of the wood, so I applied a dark oak wood dye from Rustins with a cloth. I then applied 2 coats of spray varnish, slightly sanding with 600 grit in between coats to denib the surface. If I were to do this project again, I would definitely apply an oil to the wood to help protect the wood from drying out due to sun exposure. Once the finish had dried, I could get it filled, and wow, the dark wood dye contrasting with the green herbs really makes them stand out. Thanks for watching everyone, please like and subscribe for more videos. See you in the next one.